Good evening, everyone. I've never gavelled the mayor until now, so I'd like to call this meeting, the June 22nd Committee of the Whole meeting. I'd like to call that to order, and I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Francis.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Francis.
Thank you, Natasha. Yes. Sorry.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Here.
Councilmember Craig. Here. Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Here.
Councilmember Meek. Councilmember Lineberger. Here. Councilmember Keel.
Here.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
And Councilmember Handy.
Present.
All right, we have 11 here, so we've got a quorum.
And Councilmember Meek did reach out. Unfortunately, he is at a family reunion and would rather be with them than us. And I don't have to blame him.
Amen.
So if everybody would stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have the minutes from our May 18th meeting. If anybody has any, want to make a motion to accept
Take a
those?
motion.
Second.
I've got Marsh and Smiley. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And now we are going to move into administrative matters, and I'm going to call on Mr. Richard Hopper to give us a storm debris update. Glad you're up first. I know you've had a long day, Mr. Hopper.
Everybody, I know we've got a letter, I think. Thank you. Good afternoon, Council, Chairman. We're still fighting these limbs. Unfortunately, it's better than it was. I do have one truck running limbs only right now because I'm having 3 trucks running transfer because transfers is rough. And we've had a little update on what we've done since you got that. Now we're at total cubic yards of 18,480 cubic yards of limbs that we have carried to the burn site. I can't really give anybody a definite time when it's all going to be over. I'm hoping I'm back to normal by the end of July. We'll just have to wait and see how that works. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Fair night.
On that, we still have a lot of trees that are coming out of the backyards right now with the Baptist Association, with Miss Natasha's been helping us with, but also private contractors and just homeowners. And our private contractors are supposed to be hauling them off. They're not. They're dumping them on the side of the road and running. But we do have a lot of homeowners still cutting trees out. I had a conversation with them, a couple of them on Monday. Wanted to know, I told them to stack them up there and Richard would come as long as it was the homeowner, not a private contractor cutting them up on that.
Yeah, we're having a lot of trouble with private contractors. And
Well,
we get everything cleaned up and you go back and they piled it back out there again.
one thing I would like to mention, Mr. Hopper, I know at our last board meeting, we talked about the putting the updates, daily updates on the website.
Yeah, we're
And
doing
I just want to
that.
remind everybody that if you do the what's that, Hopkinsville Solid Waste Enterprise Facebook page,
We're updating.
we're doing a very good job of updating and letting everybody know if you see transfer trash, not everybody's, I didn't know what all this stuff was until I got on the board. So that's just your debris. If you clean out your closets, clean out your basements, your regular trash, it doesn't go in the Herbie. That's your transfer trash. It'll say whether they're picking up limbs or transfer
Yes.
trash. Because we are limited. Well, we got 4 knuckle booms
Four is
out.
all I've got and I'm
We've got
doing all
4
I can do.
out. So we're trying to balance the limbs and the regular trash. And so if you do go on that Facebook page every morning, they're doing a wonderful job saying where they're going to be and what they're picking up. So, we put that out there. And Richard, I appreciate you coming in. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hopper tonight?
If you have anything you need to find out and you're not sure about it, just give me a call and I'll let you try to help you out.
Just more of a quick comment. I know that it's been a lot, and I know these trucks have been running until, way after hours. I just want to commend you and your team for the hard work you've done, because I know there's a lot of frustration on behalf of the public who want things done quicker and whatever, but I know it's been long hours, and
Yeah.
we really appreciate it. So just
Yeah.
wanted to say thank you to you and your team for all your hard work, because I know it's been
We're-
pretty grueling.
Me and the mayor has been in constant contact with each other pretty much since the day it started.
Right.
Yeah.
He's noticed every move I've made, and we've discussed pretty much everything. haven't we,
Right,
Mayor?
yes, we have.
But I appreciate your comments.
And Richard, just real quick, can you speak to the amount of overtime the drivers are putting in?
We're running them right now 10-hour days. And I'd like to run them more than that, but the motor vehicle kind of frowns if you run them more than that. And I have run them on Saturdays, kind of cut back on that because you can wear these guys out pretty good. These guys, I've actually drove these trucks in the last few months.
I've seen
In and out of that truck all day long.
It's a lot.
In the heat from that truck here in between there, it'll work on you in a hurry, and I just don't want to. I got a good crew. I don't want to lose them.
Are we doing okay with scheduled maintenance on those trucks? We're working
Yes.
those trucks.
They
pretty
go
hard,
in
too.
every afternoon when they come in and go over.
Question.
Mr. Marsh, or I'm sorry, Ms. Francis.
You had said we could call you. What's your telephone number? You said we could call you if we had any questions.
Yes, ma'am.
We could call you if you had any
You can call my
questions.
cell number is
No, you don't have to give it, just the regular trash number to call.
887-6245. That's
It is-
the office number,
6245.
6245.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask, this is really the first I've heard about it. Has there been a big problem with transfer bulk contractors bringing it into
Not-
the city?
Not on transfer, me and the mayor's discussed it, it's a whole lot of these rentals that they evict and throw everything out on the street. I just cleaned up one right across the road here. I hate to say it like this, but when I do that, that's a free service.
Right.
That I have to pick it up, and then I have to take it to my transfer and pay for it to be sent out. So I think we're kind of working on that,
Okay.
and hopefully we get that straightened out one
And
day.
Richard, I was gonna ask, I know Mr. Britton's back here. Is there any way maybe y'all could get together and try to get something out? I mean, I own a contracting business, and I know when I do a job, I either put it on a trailer or in a dumpster. I'm not allowed to dump on the road. Is there any way that we can try to get a list together of these businesses and just maybe send out an ordinance? Just to let everybody know this is what the rules are.
Yeah.
This is a service for homeowners, and it's not to help your business out. I mean, I would love to, tore out a bathroom this week. I'd love to put it all on there instead of put it, paid to dump it.
Right.
It's part of the job.
Well, what I'd like to do, and I haven't had time, I've been able to mention it to the mayor, I'd like for me and him and the attorney, Doug Willing, to kind of sit down and look over the ordinance, because it's been in effect since 2006. I think there should be some things looked over to change, maybe, if it's possible someday, when we get kind of
Right.
settled in.
Well, we're going to look at that because I'm having an issue with the rental properties on the evictions. We're paying just about a full truck on some of these evictions.
Yeah.
And a truck costs to haul off roughly 700 plus to haul off, and we're giving that away. And instead of us dumping it on the street corner, when we evict someone, we need to talk about having a curbside dumpster there.
Anything else for Mr.
Just one-
Robert? Doug?
Well, on that point, Mayor, so I've had constituents come to me and ask Richard if, it'd be feasible for solid waste to look at doing a paid pickup or scheduled pickup or whatever the case. So I just want to bring that out
Right.
what we're talking about.
Me and the mayor's
Yeah.
talked about that.
We've
too.
talked
It's been-
about that too.
Yeah, it's been brought to me several times.
That would be really a good idea in a way.
Anything else?
I mean, I've bragged to friends for a long time about the blessing that we have in Hopkinsville of that, boom truck, the Claw, coming and picking things up the same day your trash gets picked up. As a resident, that's a tremendous blessing. I'd hate to see that go away. If we could do that without making that go, it'd be great, because that would make me sad.
Well, I'm not intending to do away with the knuckle boom trucks at all.
Good.
No, they'll always be here.
Good
It's
deal.
just, I feel like some things needs to be changed.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to see it taken advantage of.
Exactly.
So,
That's it, for sure.
All right.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
see
you, Richard.
you next week.
All right.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, sir.
Looking
thank you for
forward
your
to it.
service.
Let's go ahead and call on Mr. Dave Herndon to give us our quarterly Public Works Department report.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, council members. Just I want to first off say, hope I can speak on behalf of our department to thank the mayor, Troy, Melissa, staff, and council for getting the budget through. I think everybody in our house is very excited about that. So with that being said, I'm gonna move forward and get into some of the stuff we've been doing this year on the street side. So my highlights for this presentation are going to be really what our focus has been on for the past several months. Storm debris cleanup, abatement, and our Fort Campbell intergovernmental support agreements. So on storm debris cleanup, what we've done is I loaded my bullets so I would keep talking so I wouldn't get sidetracked and not get sidetracked. So there, after the March 3rd event, we put in about almost 1,700 staff hours on storm debris cleanup. If you went into Cherokee Park, it was just a disaster. We did all that work. Then the next storm came and it was like we didn't do anything, or we went back out there and dumped it back out. So it was just bad. So what we've done on our side, we spent about 6 weeks straight working on roadside debris, stuff that was in the road, things like that. We hauled 134 loads of green waste to the burn site, and we have maintained that burn site 5 to 6 days a week, depending on what Richard's schedule was going to be. If they were going to be working on Saturday, then we would plan on working on a Saturday. So that burn pile has literally been going for over 3 months. So nonstop. So that's when you think about that, that's a little crazy. So that's how much debris we're talking about that, and it's hard to convey that to the public when we have folks calling it, but just unbelievable amount. Got to give a quick credit to Jim Creighton, who I asked him if I could steal these photos off Facebook. My wife kept complaining about this stump on South Main Street. And she said it's huge. And next thing I know, Jim had posted pictures of our crew with the knuckle boom and the backhoe wrestling it up. And we were finally able to get it up. So, but we're able to do that stuff when we are working limb debris. We can operate a little bit differently than what Richard's crew. We usually have a guy on the ground or two guys on the ground with a saw to make it a little bit easier to pick up. And Richard's just not able to do that. His guys are there to pick up, and that's about it. So we have an advantage on that side, but it does take more people to do that. Along those sides, if I were to tell you guys we were 10% understaffed, then you'd go, oh no. But we're down 2 folks, so that is 2 folks that we missed. We got one coming in, and hopefully we can fill the other position very, very soon. So that's the public works side of the debris cleanup, and now we're going to talk about our contractor coming in. A lot of you are aware that we went out for a request for proposals for debris removal, and we had 4 firms submit. We selected and contracted with TFR Enterprises. Now, these are people that if you went through their RFPs, these are the type of contractors that go in after hurricanes and clean up. They're not your mom and pop, tree service. So we have contracted with them. We we actually have a contract with ER Assist to monitor that work, provide daily briefs along with us monitoring the work. And the ER Assist is going to be going to help in bridging the gap. And they're tracking this information for FEMA, and we hope that they can bridge the gap in the reimbursement for the work that we've all put in. So what has TFR done to date? And these are numbers. We get a email every night at 10:30 on what they have done, what they did that day, and what they have done total. So they've hauled 140 loads. They've got huge trucks if you haven't seen them. So they've got almost 9,000 cubic yards. As far as trees, they've been able to cut total of 17 trees and 70 hanging limbs. We are in for those of you who don't know, we are in Indiana bat nesting season. So, so the Indiana bat is an endangered species. So our company has come in and marked those trees that could be habitat, because we can't touch those trees until we're outside and get reimbursed for that until we're outside of the nesting season. So, so we do have those particular trees tagged to come down when we reach, I believe it's October when we get out of that time frame. But the more you know, the more. That's just a little gee whiz bit of information for you. And on the abatement side, we received 292 properties to abate. Add 13 to that. This time, and his staff were good enough to send us 13 while I was bebopping around the back 40 with Mr. Body this afternoon. So add 13 to that. So we got a little over 300 properties to abate. This time last year, we'd received 220. So we're about 24% increase in the same period of time from last year to this year. Public Works has abated 208 of those properties, and we have 84 plus 13 properties pending city abatement. So we're running and gunning on abatement. I would be remiss to say there's two things I want to say. If we had that 6 weeks back that we were dedicated to tree removal, we'd probably be pretty flush caught up. But we had to do that when we're doing something, we're not doing something else. So if we didn't have to spend that time removing trees, we could have spent that time, dedicated that time to abating properties. But we are where we are, so we have what we have. So cited lots. I always like to throw a little gee whiz stuff in here, and this is 2017 to current. And let's see if this comes up. And this is what they call a heat map. So this is, I think, over 3,000 records. So you can see it's not in areas that you probably don't anticipate. We've got a lot on the east side, west side, dirt, and Canton area, and the inner city areas where you expect a lot of vacant properties there, and a lot in the fringe as well. So that's just I always like to throw that information out. Set through vacant abandoned dilapidated workshop today, and one of the things they stressed was the more data you have, the more you know in order to address issues going forward. So on our intergovernmental support agreements, road salt, we completed a little over 1,200 ton order for Fort Campbell. We are opening discussions on extending that agreement. It ends in fiscal year 23-24. Going to change it up a little bit, hopefully, so it'll be a little bit more financially, because we were able to, we haven't got it in yet, but we're able to encumber the money for the purchase of brine producing equipment. The benefit to that particular agreement is that we get brine from Fort Campbell. Well, if we can make our own, we don't really need that service. So we're looking at something to make it a little bit more financially beneficial to the city in the next salt agreement. Street signage, we're 99% done with year 2. We just got the year 3 information. We got 710 signs removed and installed. And we're also looking at amending that that support agreement to include additional work. They're understaffed at Fort Campbell. They have like one guy, we have a 3-man sign crew. They have one guy on signs in Fort Campbell in their roads and grounds department. So I'm hoping we can work with them to try and pick up some of that work. And again, we get some more revenue on those agreements for the city. And lastly, pavement markings. During this fiscal year, we've done about 440,000 linear feet of long lines. That's road striping. That doesn't include parking lots and things like that we've done. And we're looking at altering that agreement, looking at altering the scope of work with that, because we basically couldn't do work for a year and a half or two because of paint supply shortages. And that's not the first time you all have heard that. So this is the GWIS number on this. So Melissa showed me a fancy report that she had created on our finance software. So this is the takeaway from the Fort Campbell agreements. Is right now, as of this morning, we were $284,000 in the black on those agreements, revenues over expenditures. So that's how much we have pulled in overspent working with Fort Campbell on those. And again, when it's not season to do that, those employees that are funded from that and that equipment, that's ours to use. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
I have one. On your roads and sidewalks, when are you the one that deals with that?
Mhm.
Okay, just double checking. Thank you. Do you have a list of when it is? And if you do, can you email them?
I can email the list that we've got. The bids for that are opening a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
So at that time, we'll get that information. We can apply those. We can get some refresh cost estimates from whoever wins. So we typically only have one bidder on that. So whoever gets that bid, we'll get cost estimates from them, make sure it falls within budget, and then we'll proceed. But we have that next round of streets prepared. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anybody got anything else for Dave? Actually, I do.
Awesome.
I'm not letting you off that easy. So I'm gonna go just thinking back to your debris cleanup and what we've done at Public Works. If we were to compare what has happened because of the 2 storms in March and what we've got time-wise and truckloads and all that, and we were to compare that to what y'all do over a normal year without those kind of storms, how much, you see where I'm going? Like, what came from those 2 storms, how much of a regular year would that be percentage-wise, just in your bet? You've been doing this a while. You ought to have a guess.
I would say in any given year, we have trees fall down over the road once or twice a month. Typically, of course, they're all 2:00 in the morning. Nothing ever falls. Nothing ever falls in the road during the day. So I would say we have to clean up a tree. Under normal circumstances, we would have to clean up a tree out of the one tree out of the road once or twice a month on an emergency call in. So you take that. So you got, let's say that happens 24 times in a normal year. Okay. So let's say we spend a day on that. So that's 24 days. Well, we spent, probably a year and a half's worth of work in that, if I'm understanding your question, in that 6-week period.
Yeah,
So
that's
typical,
kind of what I was trying to get
typical
to.
tree work. So,
That's amazing.
yeah, I mean, it was, I think everybody's done a tremendous job with the resources. I think that the working with Randy, another thing I wanted to mention, the Baptist associations that came in, they were at trees I didn't even know about. So they really did a great job doing some cleanup. We're coordinating with Randy on some trees that we know are down to save some abatement costs on properties. So it's a challenge. I mean, we're with everything going on. We're all pretty strung out, but we kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel now. So you drive around, you don't see these piles that are the size of 3 vehicles,
Thank you.
on top of each other. So hopefully we're getting to a point where we can start winding down. And July sounds great. Richard said July sounds fantastic. So.
Anybody got anything else for Dave? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Herndon. So now we're going to call on council member Martin for the monthly agency board appointee report.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
I currently serve on 4 boards appointed to by the mayor. The first one I'm on is the Southwestern Kentucky EDC, and you all in this room, y'all know about as much as I do what's going on EDC wise. There's nothing really new to report there. E911 and the ambulance boards, 2 different boards. E911 meets quarterly. Ambulance board meets monthly to go over financials and their run statistics. E911 board did just recently approved about a $30,000 expenditure to put GPS tracking devices in all ambulances and fire trucks. That will hopefully help reduce response times and just kind of know where their vehicles are at all times. Lastly, stormwater utility, we're moving forward on Project A, which is the flood structure being built near the airport on the South Fork of the Little River. Plans have been submitted to the state for permitting. Once these are approved, the project will be put out for bid. So that's coming. We're kind of just waiting on the state right now, but that's next point of that project, and that's really all I've got.
That's great. Any questions for council member Martin?
I hope not.
All right. Well,
I'll make them up.
moving along, we've got nothing under unfinished business, so we're going to roll into the new business portion of our agenda, and I'm going to call on Mr. Willen about the Code of Ordinance Enforcement Board fine schedule.
If you look at pages 13 through 15, we are recommending that the fine schedule for the Code of Ordinance Enforcement Board be updated. It's been some time since these fines have been made more consistent and made reasonable according to the violation. So what we've tried to do is to go through and update, especially the ones that are most frequent before the Code of Ordinance Enforcement Board. These are your nuisance type violations. So anything that you see a strike through and an underline, that is what we're recommending a change on the junked or abandoned vehicles, noise, basic property maintenance code, and zoning. And you've got 2 charts. You've got under subsection A, those fines are if there's no request for a hearing, then that's the fine. If there's a request for a hearing, then the fines go up, but the Code of Ordinance Enforcement Board can go down to 50% of that amount. And that's typically what they do. They'll fine 50% of the maximum fine. So there were a few inconsistencies where it would be cheaper to go and ask for a hearing and even be found in violation with 50% of the maximum fine than if you did nothing. So we've corrected that. We've made these more consistent, and obviously they're high enough now to get your attention, where it's not cheaper for the city to mow your grass than it is to go have somebody else mow it. Something else that's important is subsection C, the administrative expense. There was a fee of $50 on every case previously. And we're recommending that on uncontested cases, that administrative fee be increased to $100. And anytime there's a hearing, that fee be increased to $200. That's if there's a violation. Of course, if they have a hearing and there's no violation, there's no fee. But what that pays for is all of the staff time. You've got your code enforcement officers, you've got your staff doing the agendas, staffing the meetings, you've got your code enforcement board, you've got the attorney's fees handling that. And it's just a lot of expense that really the city was covering all that. So this is a way to transfer that expense where it should be to the violators. So that's the recommendation, is to increase those fines that are struck through and underlined, and to increase that administrative fee.
So that we make, I'm sorry.
I got Ms. Craig.
You can go ahead, because I was going to make a motion. You can go ahead and ask your
That's okay.
question
So,
first.
so that we can ask some questions, I was
Yeah.
just going to make a
You're fine.
motion, we pass it along to city council.
That was going to be my motion, so I second that.
You got that? Perfect. Got Mark,
No
Craig.
questions.
Okay, now questions.
Yeah, my question was concerning section D. Before, it explained that, the city council had some discretion as to how those funds could be used, maybe to help some of the citizens of the city. I see that's been completely,
Yes, and I forgot to mention that. There was a fund that was set up that really has not been utilized. There's money sitting there in an account, and Melissa may be able to answer those questions, but it's my understanding the mayor would like to just put that before council to determine where that money is going to go. It's just going to go in the general budget until council determines if it's going to be earmarked for anything in particular. Is that correct, Melissa?
Are you talking about the Aunt Mary fund?
Yes.
Yes.
According to, I think it was an MO, the Aunt Mary funds are set aside. Anything that's on the basic property maintenance code, any violation goes in the Aunt Mary fund, and it is very specific right now what it can be used on. It's very limited. So that money, we're not allowed to put it in the general fund. It must sit in this other fund until council decides what they're going to do with it if it's not going to be used for the purposes defined in the MO. We will need to get the MO out and everybody read it and understand if we're going to make a change to it.
So there's an ordinance and an MO. The MO specifies that the money's in a separate account. So the next step would be to amend that MO as well.
What are we removing?
You're
Right.
removing the requirement that those funds
Be
be
used.
put into a special fund.
So this
They will
way
just
there's
go
more
into the general
ways we can
fund,
use the money.
subject to any further action of council.
Ms. Francis?
How much is in the Mary Fund?
Roughly 100
I don't
106.
have an exact number. to be honest.
Exact number, you're roughly looking around 150 to 160.
150,000? Is that a roundabout figure, 150?
We get money into that account on a weekly basis right now, so I mean, it's hard for me, I have not looked at it lately, I hate to give you a wrong number.
That's okay.
I can look it up and email it to y'all.
Perfect, thank you. Another question.
Fire away.
The Mary Fund that you have, that's the extra money that comes from the fines?
Not on all of these fines. I believe it's just on basic property maintenance code.
That's correct.
Okay, basic, so it's not all on fines?
That's correct.
Okay, so it comes from somewhere else too?
Yeah, there's no restriction on the other fines. They go in the general fund, correct,
Okay,
Melissa? Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes, thank you.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
okay,
John.
go ahead.
What I was going to ask is, so what goes in the Aunt Mary Fund currently is fines collected on basic property maintenance code violations only. Is that, am I
That is
hearing
correct. And
Okay.
and that is specified, this is a general provision in the ordinance. The municipal order is more specific and references the basic property maintenance code and what those are used for. So that would be the next thing that would be brought in, to you. But in order to remove this, while you're amending the ordinance, if you remove that restriction, then that will free you up to amend that municipal order.
So we can't do anything with the MO without taking this off of here.
That is correct.
There we go.
So my question is, how would the funds for folks not financially capable, as this described, be dispersed? Would they make application with the city? What they would?
There is a process, and I'm not aware of how that works. Melissa, do you have the details on who's eligible? Holly may have that information.
Holly probably knows that process better than me. They send up, normally, we've only had a couple of these in the last 11 years where we've actually paid something out of that fund. And normally, CDS sends up that application. So Holly would probably answer that question better than me of what what the requirements are.
And I can tell you, the basic property maintenance code violations historically have not been one of our most cited violations. Now it's picking up.
I
So,
see.
but that fund we would have a lot of money in that fund that could be used elsewhere. So I know it's the mayor's opinion, and I share it, that those monies could be freed up for council to spend elsewhere without that restriction.
Yeah, well, little mayor loves to spend money. So, I'm sure he'd love that. The bottom line is, and I don't
You
mean
gotta
that,
spend what your
I don't mean that
constituents
in a
want.
derogatory way. It just seems a shame that we wouldn't be able to help maybe some of the citizens of the city who are not financially capable to meet some of those needs that they have around their own properties, to do this. I wish we could take some time somehow to figure some mechanism that we can use some of these funds to do what some council originally wanted to do, which I think would be a very philanthropic, it'd be good.
And you still
can
have
use
that
it.
option,
Okay,
but you're not going to be tied to the same provisions that are currently in this ordinance.
okay. Well, we may ask for some direction on how to structure that and put it together.
So Doug, it sounds like we're combining two distinct issues into one. We have, yeah.
Well, we're amending the fine schedule.
Yes.
We're amending the.
I was talking about our discussion. We have the Aunt Mary Fund and what we can do with that over here, and we have this over here. We can't do anything about what's in there without changing this.
That is correct.
Okay.
This ties your hands.
Good.
You
So
can't
we're
really
actually
change it.
untying our hands to
That's
be
right.
able
To be able to do
to
more.
possibly do more for people.
This will give you,
So it's two separate conversations.
this
Have
will
no
give you
further
more
questions.
options by deleting this language.
Get it?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Francis.
Can we see the restrictions that they are currently on and get us to email to us?
I can email you the municipal order that adopts the guidelines.
Yeah, because we're flying blind without knowing what it is. And then also, the fines that are being risen, are those fines going to go into Aunt Mary too? No?
No, those will all just go into the general fund.
That will go in the general fund?
Subject to any further action of council directing those funds go elsewhere.
Thank you.
So will the clerk be willing to email that?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
I'll
Thank
get
you.
that out tomorrow.
It's good.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
also mention that if you all do amend this fine schedule, that we will have to amend, I think it's 4 ordinances that this will affect. So we'll be amending those 4 ordinances to make the fines match. So you'll see more than one ordinance when this comes to council.
Right, yeah.
And we'll get sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We'll get the 4 that's going to be changed before too, right, in the email?
It's the 4 that are in here.
It's all together.
It's the same ordinances that are in here. This just has the table that lists them each individually. That will just say the fines range from this amount to this amount.
Okay,
They're
thank
spelled out in here.
Thank you.
Question.
Got another question?
Move the,
Oh, did you have another question?
no, move the motion.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions? We got a motion, so I guess all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, move that on to council. Had a lot of time, I got a little lost.
Me too.
All right, we're gonna, Mr. Barr's over here on the on-deck circle. Appreciate you moving up, and we're gonna discuss the school resource officer comp time policy.
Yes, Council, if you look on pages 16, 17, and 18, just have some brief information regarding comp time for hourly or non-exempt employees. Chief Newby asked me to look at this for school resource officers. They currently utilize this at the sheriff's department with their school resource officers. And basically, it's allowing them to use comp time instead of getting paid overtime. So as an example, if they work 44 hours in a work week, they'd be eligible for 4 hours of overtime pay at a time and a half pay rate. This would basically break that down. That 4 hours of overtime would actually be 6 hours of comp time. The law states that we have to use comp time in the same comparable amount as overtime. There are some restrictions on here. If you notice on the first couple pages, I just thought understanding what comp time meant would help on page 16 and 17. And then what we will do is we'll have those that are eligible and are interested in doing this, they'll be able to sign off on the draft police school resource officer non-exempt comp time policy. Mr. Williams reviewed that, and though he's not added a whole lot of legalese yet, he thought that's a pretty good place to start with this particular draft. The reason we're bringing it in right now is we want to get this approved, hopefully in the council meeting in July. So it'll be ready for the school resource officers in August. Because they're working overtime for various school activities, after school, sporting events, different kinds of things like that. And this will allow them to be off during non-school time and match more of the school system schedule. By doing this, there's really no additional cost to the city. Because since the school's closed, we don't have anybody working there anyway from that standpoint. If we did this across the board, there'd be other areas that might come into play that would require us to have overtime for someone to work in those places. That's why we're just limiting it to school resource officers. Any questions?
Is that it? You just kind of stopped there. All right, any,
Need a motion before the council?
got a motion?
Second.
I got, let me do this. Who said second? I got Martin, and who said second?
Jamie did.
Jamie.
Jamie. I knew Doug came over here. Now go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, are the school resource officers working overtime now and then not being compensated, or how are they?
No, they'll be compensated on an overtime payout rate.
Okay, so instead of doing that, we're just gonna do comp time?
They'll have the option of doing that, yes.
Okay,
Because this has to be a voluntary program.
got it, thank you.
Anything else?
And if,
Go ahead.
yeah, and if we pay them, they terminate their employment, we have to pay is what it says.
Correct.
in
Any
here.
compensable time they have, we'd have to pay that out.
Is there any reason upon which a termination, which is a negative termination or whatever, would cause them to lose that benefit?
No, we would still have to pay that out. That'd be accrued time we would have to pay.
Okay.
I've got a motion and a second. Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank y'all.
We'll move that one up.
Thank you, sir.
Now we're down to number 8, other. And I heard the mayor likes to spend money, and tell everybody where you're gonna be spending your money at next week.
Where we're gonna be next week is at the Western Kentucky State Fair. Everyone, please come out and enjoy it. We got a lot going on at the track. And bring the kids out to get cotton candy and the caramel apples so they can all be sugared up and jacked up before you take them home.
That's what you do with the grandkids.
Yeah,
Not your own kids.
yeah, that's what
And
we're
that
gonna do.
starts tomorrow, right? That starts
Yes, it
tomorrow.
starts tomorrow night.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And we're going to have a big time out there tomorrow night. I was out there earlier helping do some things. But no, please come out to the fair, support the community, and move forward.
Good. Anything else under other? Seeing none, how about a motion for
Motion to
adjournment?
Adjourn.
You won't have a problem getting that.